Hey guys, Mike here. In this video, I'm going to explain why I will not buy the paid DLC, and I have no plans to buy the paid DLC. Now, stay to the very end. There actually is one situation where I would buy the paid DLC. So stay to the very end, I'll give you that scenario. But there are a couple of reasons why I won't buy the paid DLC. And the first reason is that I just didn't need it. I'm pretty happy with my first playthrough. I went in blind. I shelled over $60 to Best Buy, and I got my copy of Fire Emblem Engage base version, and I just played it day one. Maddening, blind. I didn't follow any guides. I was just trying to use my own intuition and just everything that the game gave to me, like all the characters, all of the base emblems, and I just grinded through it and tried to use my own intelligence to try and beat the game. And I'm pretty proud that I was able to do that. And I think I did it in a pretty decent time. The reason I did it pretty fast was because I didn't, I wanted to obviously watch YouTube videos on Fire Emblem. I just didn't want to be spoiled. So that's why I tried to beat it as fast as possible. And yeah, that's the first thing. I just didn't need it. And I'm pretty happy with my first maddening playthrough. Just really proud of how I played, and it's just a memory that I will probably cherish because I really like the gameplay in this game, and I'm just so glad I beat it on my first time on my own. And the second reason sort of plays into the first reason, and that's because it would objectively make the game easier, and I don't think anyone really disputes this. I mean, having more emblems at your disposal, more maps at your disposal to grind EXP, because from what I understand, you have to actually beat the paralog maps for those DLCs to actually get the ring. So that that's just more EXP for you to get on your characters and help catch up units if you need them to catch up. But it just makes the game easier, and this plays into the first reason where, because I beat the game without the DLC, I have no desire to make the game easier on myself. What I find for Fire Emblem is it gets really boring for me when I'm overpowered around chapter 15 or 16, and this goes for any Fire Emblem game. And when I'm overpowered at those levels, then the game just doesn't become fun for me, and then I end up quitting that playthrough. I just stop playing, because I just get bored, right? So that's the second reason why I wouldn't play, or I wouldn't buy the DLC. It would just make the game easier, and since I already beat it the first time without DLC, there's really no reason for me to buy DLC, especially if it's going to make the game easier. And then this sort of plays into the third reason as well, which is I play this game for the tactical side. I do enjoy the RPG aspects and building your units, but I believe there's sort of a 50-50 split between tactics and the RPG aspects of this game. Right, this is my personal belief, but I feel you will fully enjoy this game if you fully embrace both the tactics and the RPG aspects. Whereas I see a lot of people, they just only care about the RPG aspects, like building your units and build and all that kind of stuff, but they really just ignore tactics. And for me, I actually prefer the tactics of this gameplay, so that's why I'm not super obsessed with like OP builds and stuff like that, because I find if you are a good tactical player, then you don't really need OP builds and stuff like that. So how does this relate to the paid DLC? Well, people will say, if you buy the paid DLC, you actually have more tactical options. You have more emblem rings at your disposal, and the game just becomes more fun from a tactical standpoint. And I would actually disagree with that, because a good tactician is able to make do with less, right? That is fundamentally a better tactician, right? Just because you have more options and you can do more crazy strats with other emblem rings, then that doesn't make you a better tactician. In fact, it makes you a worse tactician, because you're being crushed. Or if someone can get the same job done with fewer resources and fewer options from a tactical standpoint, then they are objectively a better tactician. And like I said, I pride myself and I find enjoyment in this game by playing this game well from a tactical standpoint. And I'd even give a different example to illustrate this. So And this is from basketball. And I know a lot of us don't really care about basketball and sports because most of us are gamers. But just hear me out. So here's an example. So there's people argue about who's the greatest of all time in basketball, and it's usually between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And without a doubt, I would say Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. And the reason for that is because he was able to accomplish much more than LeBron James given a shorter time period. So Michael Jordan didn't play as much seasons as LeBron James. LeBron James is still playing, and he's already, I think he's on his 18th NBA season. Whereas Michael Jordan has all these accomplishments and all these championships, and he was able to do that in a much shorter time than LeBron James, right? So Michael Jordan is just fundamentally more efficient than LeBron James, not only in points, like his percentages, his efficiency rating, but also his championships and all that kind of stuff. And sure, LeBron may surpass him in, points and stuff like that, but because Michael Jordan was able to do it in such a short time period, he's just fundamentally more efficient because it's a ratio, right? The accomplishments in the amount of time allotted. So this harkens back to the DLC argument, because in Engage, if you have less tools and you're able to accomplish, feats in the game with less tools, you're just fundamentally better. You played more tactically, you're able to accomplish the same thing that others could do with less resources. And it's just, it kind of combines with all these other reasons where, if you don't need them and you're able to accomplish these things, then there's no reason to really buy the DLC. I mean, yeah, sure, you can buy it if you just want to see the interactions between the other emblems and maybe the supports and the bond conversations. Yeah, sure, I guess that's fine. But you could just go on YouTube to view all that stuff, in my opinion. And so these are really all the main reasons, right? I didn't really need it. It makes the game objectively easier, and for me personally, I just don't want to make the game easier. I just want to be okay, hey, the developers balanced the game around this base game. I just want to play it how the developers intended for it to be played at its base value, right? Without all these extra factors that could potentially make it easier. Now, there is one final exception and scenario which would get me to buy the paid DLC. And that is if the intelligent systems or the developers of this game created a super mode, like a super DLC mode of Fire Emblem Engage, where they would say okay, hey, this game mode has instead of just 26 chapter maps, it has 30 or 33 chapter maps, maybe even 35. And they have all the DLC, so you have access to all of the emblem rings, the DLC emblem rings, and you have to do their paralogs to get the emblem rings. And they say, okay, hey, this mode, we highly recommend you try to get every emblem ring and use every tool at your disposal to try and beat the game. Now, that is something I would be super excited to play, because that game mode, the intent of that game mode would be to balance around the paid DLC, right? And if the developers intended for that balance and wanted you to use all those rings and all those tools at your disposal to beat the game, that's something I would definitely love to play. And that's the one scenario where I would pay money to buy the paid DLC. All right. And I actually don't think that's going to come out. I mean, if they do, I would be pleasantly surprised and I would sing the praises of paid DLC. But, it just doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So, so I'm just fine for now. I'm just playing the base game, trying different strats, trying different characters. And that's pretty much it. So if you enjoyed this content, let me know what you think in the comments. And thanks for watching.